Hi friends, I'm going to recap a 1998 war and drama film titled Saving Private Ryan. Spoiler warning, watch out and take care. The film opens with a family being guided through a cemetery by an elderly veteran. As he approaches the gravesite, he stops to gaze at the two flags up and becomes emotional. He comes to a halt in front of one, sobs and kneels. His entire family rushes over to console him. The U.S. Army arrives at Omaha Beach on June 6, 1944. Soldiers are aboard a landing craft and others are vomiting due to the heavy seas. As they draw closer to the beach, Miller issues his orders. As they prepare for what lies ahead, many of the soldiers have a determined look in their faces. Soldiers begin to fall as soon as the murder hole is open, and bullets strike them. As more people are killed by machine gun fire, Miller yells for some to jump over the cliff instead. Those that are able to jump into the water are having difficulty removing their belongings, which are weighing them down. Bullets also strike some people when they're swimming. Everyone is fighting to stay afloat and defend themselves, and it's mayhem everywhere. Miller keeps an eye on soldiers who are fleeing for their lives. Everywhere there are bodies. Blood stains the water. Soldiers around him are calling his attention for more instructions while he's drifting out. Finally, he responds to Horvath, telling everyone to leave the beach. Horvath takes the initiative and commands the others to follow him. On the other hand, Miller directs his group to the seawall. Most of them protest, but he insists that they must depart to make place for the others who are about to arrive. He warns them that continuing on the beach will almost certainly result in their deaths. They change their position. As Miller approaches the seawall, he notices that no armor has survived the journey. He inquires as to who's in charge, only to discover that he's the sole survivor. He inquires about their whereabouts, to which Horvath responds that they're exactly where they should be, but no one else is. They hurry to bring the squad together in order to determine who's missing and get a handle on the problem. Up the line, Miller summons the Bangalores. Horvath yells that they're in business after the explosion and orders everyone to defilade the other side of the hole. Miller tells Jackson to kill the machine gunner. He stands in the open as spade, hoping to give Jackson a chance to find cover and take the shot. The currents are shifting. Miller issues a press release announcing the opening of Dog One and soliciting dozers. As the U.S. Army overwhelms the enemy, some of their soldiers start surrendering. Back in Washington, someone informs Captain Sanders, who informs Colonel Bryce, that 3 of the 4 Ryan brothers have died. At the same time, a telegraph informing their mother of their deaths will be dispatched. The 4th brother, the youngest, had landed with the 101st Airborne Division the night before the invasion, according to Captain Sanders. He's in Normandy, but no one knows where he is or whether he's alive. General Marshall receives the information. Someone tries to persuade him not to authorize a rescue effort for the final Ryan sibling, but he counters by reading them a letter from Abraham Lincoln to a Mrs. Bixby who had lost 5 of her boys in battle. He believes the final sibling is still alive and pledges they will track him down and bring him out of the war. He's given the order to retrieve Ryan while reporting on the situation at Omaha Beach. He'll be traveling to Newville with his own squad on a public relations assignment, according to him. He's suspected of being a part of the aviation mishaps. He requests Rabin, Jackson, Wade, Mellish, and Caparzo in particular. Baker will absorb the remainder of his company. He is looking for Upham since he also needs a French and German translator. Upham warns him that there are a lot of Germans in Newville and that he hasn't been in combat since he's been assigned to maps and translation. Miller informs him that he's required regardless of his prior expertise. On the trip to Newville, Rabin ponders the math of risking the lives of 8 troops in exchange for the life of 1. Wade tells him to consider Ryan's mother, but Rabin counters that they all have mothers. There's not to reason why theirs, but to do and perish, Upham tells them. As soldiers, Miller agrees that it's their responsibility. They're all under commands that supersede everything, including their own mothers. They arrive in Newville amid a fierce battle with the Germans. They run across Sergeant Hill, who mistakenly believes they're the relief, but Miller corrects him and inquires about Ryan. They cross town in search of the 101st Airborne Division, which includes Ryan. They come to a halt to inquire about the German soldiers, but the family insists on taking the children. So, Caparzo approaches them to take the small girl. He explains that he's unable to return the young girl since she resembles his niece. While disputing with Miller, Caparzo is shot by a German sniper and dies from his wounds. The sniper is killed by Jackson. After a skirmish with a few German soldiers, they track down Captain Hamill as Ryan approaches. They know they have the incorrect Ryan when Miller delivers the news. They're looking for a James Francis Ryan, but they're looking for James Frederick Ryan. That nightfall, they relax for a few hours in a church. When Miller checks in on Upham, he informs him that everything is okay. Miller picks up on Upham's quotation from Emerson. He inquires about his origins and activities before to the conflict. Miller responds by inquiring how big the pool is. Upham chuckles at the fact that he's been caught and informs him the price is roughly $300. They agree that Miller will inform him when the pool hits $500 so they may split it. When they get at the rally location where Ryan should be, Miller tells Wade to assist the injured soldiers while they look for the soldier they require. DeWint requests an update from Miller on the rally point situation. DeWint flew in the 101st Airborne Division, so he inquires about Ryan. He reveals that someone welded a couple of steel plates into their deck to keep General Ament safe, but they forgot to tell DeWint, who finds out just as they are ready to take to the air. The plan's weight is incorrect and it's overburdened. He gave it his all, yet he was limited in its abilities. The jet crashed into the ground like a brick, scattering the division. A man tells Miller that Mandelson knows of Ryan from C Company as he's crying out for Ryan. When he's brought to him, he discovers that a group of people, including Ryan, stumbled across a colonel who was gathering men to go to Ramel to babysit a bridge. They pass a radar installation on their route to Ramel. Since it isn't part of their plan, Rabin and the rest of the crew recommend going around it and focusing on their mission. But Miller insists on subduing the location. They're successful, but Wade is lost. They thrash the remaining German soldier out of rage. Miller comes to a halt and orders the German soldier to mark and cover Wade's body in preparation for grave detail. As the squad surrounds him, the German soldier pleads for his life while digging. Miller blindfolds the German soldier and tells him to march to the next Allied patrol and surrender. From Caparzo and Wade's deaths to taking over the radar station and then letting the German soldier go, Rabin shouts at Miller for what he regards as several blunders he has made since they began the mission. Horvath commands him to dive in, but Rabin refuses and declares that the mission is complete. When Miller unexpectedly inquires about the pool, everyone becomes enraged. When he finally tells the team that he used to be an English teacher in Pennsylvania, they all stop and stare at him. In the spring, a baseball coach. As they listen to him quietly discuss his life, the tension between everyone is dissipated. The group eventually finds Ryan after finding a tank. They learn that after Captain Jennings' death, Corporal Henderson has assumed command. He inquires as to what they require, and Miller replies that they will be transporting Ryan. Miller informs him of his sibling's death and that he's been returned home as they move to the side. Ryan informs them that he has orders as well and refuses to leave his place. Horvath tells Miller that he shares Ryan's viewpoint. They can either return to their supervisor and inform him that Ryan refused to return home, or they can stay and assist Ryan's team in defending the bridge before taking him home. Miller chooses to stay and carry out Ryan's demands. They begin to strategize how they will protect the bridge and ensure that the German soldiers are taken out. The bell tower will be where Jackson will be stationed. Miller reveals that they can destroy the tank with a sticky bomb, a sock bomb, composition B, a simple fuse, and axle grease. Ryan inquires as to where Miller will be stationed, to which the other guy responds that he will remain near to the captain at all costs. Mellish, on the other hand, warns Upham that things are about to get insane and they'll have to rely on him for munitions or they'll die. He also explains Upham what FUBAR stands for, which stands for Fucked Up Before All Recognition. Ryan asks Miller if he's a teacher back home throughout their conversation. He assures him it's something they'll never do, especially after what he and his brothers did to their professors. Miller responds that he has 1,000 children that are just like them. He confesses to Miller that no matter how hard he tries, he can't see his brothers' faces. The other man says he has to think of a context, not just a face, but something specific they may have done together. He mentions his backyard hammock and his wife trimming rose plants when he thinks about home. Ryan reminisces about a night with his brothers. It was their final night together before the oldest left for basic training. As the rumbling of tanks approaches, everyone runs to their assigned post. On the Rabbit, Rabin is charged with luring the German in his direction. When he returns, he tells him that the Germans have a large infantry force, but he isn't sure if they took the bait. One of the tanks is approaching them, followed by infantry. As soon as the tank gets near enough to the bridge, they launch an assault. Mellish and Henderson are motioned to advance by Miller. He gives the command to launch the sticky bombs. They were able to take out 2 of the tanks, but there's still more infantry on the move. On the bell tower, a tank is aiming towards Parker and Jackson. They've been removed from the equation. Upham is immobile. Mellish and Henderson have depleted their ammunition supply. When Upham finally musters the resolve to move, he notices German troops approaching Mellish and Henderson's position. Mellish gets into a confrontation with Steamboat Willie, who has returned to the fight and is yelling for Rabin's assistance. Horvath uses a rocket-powered grenade to take out another tank. Steamboat Willie, who was in a struggle with Mellish, has overpowered and stabbed him as Upham returns to Mellish's position. Upham is cowering on the stairwell as Steamboat Willie arrives, and he glances at him before strolling past him. Upham screams. Another tank and more infantry arrive at Miller and Ryan's position. They take off. Horvath comes into Upham crouching near the stairwell and takes him. They're headed to the Alamo, he says. Miller and Ryan attempt to conceal the fire from the other side of the bridge. Horvath is hit while attempting to cross and Rabin catches him. As they cross the bridge, Miller instructs Ryan to take him and take cover. When something bursts close by, Miller becomes bewildered. When Rabin notices Horvath's body, he snatches him and pulls him to safety. Miller enters the fray to retrieve the detonator as the conflict continues. Upham witnesses Steamboat Willie shooting him in the chest. Tanks come in greater numbers. Because it's the only weapon he has, Miller fires a handgun at one. When the air help arrives, the Germans are bombarded. When others attempt to run, Upham emerges from his hiding position, his revolver drawn. With them is Steamboat Willie. Upham kills him without regret because he realizes the terrible decision that must be made during the conflict. As reinforcements arrive, Rabin makes an attempt to offer first aid to Miller. While Rabin looks for a medic, Ryan approaches them. 10:54, Miller draws Ryan closer with his trembling hand and whispers, "Earn this before you die." 10:58, back at the cemetery, an older Ryan thanks Miller and explains that his family wants to pay him a visit. He tells Miller that he did his best to live the greatest life he could and that he hopes he deserves everything they've done for him. Ryan salutes Miller's gravestone at the end of the film. We hope you enjoyed our video from today. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel to receive notifications of new and interesting videos.